So it's been a while since I uploaded a video on my YouTube channel. It's the 3rd of June today. The weekend's been absolutely glorious, and I wanted to post something that wasn't zombie related and thought I'd try and do a tech review, but I've got a couple of microphones that I will look at doing. But today I wanted to talk to you about this. This is the Boosterboard V2. I actually purchased this a year ago. The order actually completed a year ago today. I had the confirmation, but I want to give you a bit of a backstory as to why I've got the Boosterboard V2, whether it's any good for me, is it ideal for you, should you invest in one, and I'm going to try and answer some questions and some common questions that I do get asked from time to time when I get stopped on my Boosterboard. But before I do any of that, I want to give you a brief timeline. Now, boosted boards, I first heard of them in, I think it was about 2015. It was a Boosterboard V1. You had the option of a single motor, a dual motor, and I think it was a dual plus. But the problem with the V1, from what I understand, is that you couldn't really service them. They had to go back to boosted, and they weren't waterproof. Now, the V2 that I actually heard about in 2016, now this one is actually better because it's all modular, so you can actually replace the parts yourself. You can actually get support from boosted, you can get the parts brought in. There's tutorials on this, and as I said, I've had it for a year, so I think I've actually done quite a bit of miles on this now. I'll have a look on my app in a second. I think it was over 350 miles that I've done, and I actually think it's actually worthwhile purchasing one, but only purchase it if you're actually looking to use it as a commute. If you're going to use it for enjoyment, you may not want to tell you the cost, because when I bought this, it was about £1,400, roughly $1,700 in 2016. But again, before I go back to that, I actually had to put down a $100 deposit because Boosted were not doing international orders back in 2015. When I reached out to them in 2016, they were actually investigating that. And then I think it was roughly April, May of 2016 that there was an ability to put a deposit down of about £100, maybe $100, I don't know. And I thought, yeah, hell with it. I have potential where I could use one of these boards rather than using the car, and getting to all my clients would be an absolute breeze. So I had it in my head what I wanted. So I put the deposit down. A whole year went by until I kept chasing Boosted, and they probably hated me for it. But I kept saying, when's it coming out? And there were queries and hold-ups with international orders. But I got confirmation that my order was ready, paid for it, and literally within about a week, it turned up. So this video should have actually been done in 2017. It's now June 2018, so I've actually owned it more or less a whole year. And I am sorry I haven't done it, but I thought today would be a good idea to let you see it for yourself, see what it's like, why I use it, and whether it is worthwhile going for that sort of board or whether you should just do the commute. Now, a lot of it will depend. If you're going to be in the city, you might end up just wanting to go from A to B to C. That's the sort of work I do. I hate being stuck in traffic. So for me, getting this, going on the train and then commuting for where I need to go, it's absolutely perfect. Now, does it weigh much? No, not really. I mean, because this is the board itself. So I normally hold it like this. You can also hold it like that. You can obviously drag it because it's a longboard, and that's the other thing about the longboard. It's actually made of 100% bamboo. I think it's 100% bamboo. It's done by Loaded. So it's easy enough to commute and walk with, but for long stretches you might get a little bit tired. But I do alternate from arm to arm, and I'm probably quite like a biggish sort of guy, so it's not really the end of the world for me. And certainly I've done it for about an hour and it's not been an issue for me. But coming on to the future of Boosted board, which is the V3, they've done the Mini S, the Mini X, the Classic, which is almost like this one, not made by Loaded anymore, that use their own wood, and the Stealth. Again, I'll cover that a little bit later on. I'm only interested in the V2 here, but for me personally, I actually quite like it. So I thought we'd give it a try out and see what you think of it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the remote control here. So basically, trigger here to engage the motors, forward, reverse. You've also got a green LED to indicate the status of the battery, a blue to indicate you've got Bluetooth connectivity, because that's what it uses. If you press this button once, you should see the status of the battery on the board itself. Now, the board does actually have its own status indicator, so you should be able to see these. You should see these lights here. Hopefully you can see that. I can't see it. But if you are on the go and you want to see what the state of your battery is, press that button once and you can see it for yourself. There we go. Okay. Fairly simple enough. And again, you can go forward, you go as fast as you want, and you can also go as slow as you want, reverse. But that brings me on to the modes, because by default, you've actually got a beginner mode. Now, you can actually change it in one of two ways. Using this remote again, while the board is stationary, press it twice, or 3 times, and it should beep. That's, I think that's expert, 1, 2, 3. That's pro, and then if 1, 2, 3, that's beginner. And if I do 1, 2, 3, that's eco. Now, eco is normally the mode that I go in because I get the most miles out of it. Roughly about I think it's about 7.2 miles I get per charge. And if I'm commuting from A to B and I'm just going to have a coffee break, I can simply plug in my board. About half hour, it can be charged up to 85%. In all honesty, I've never gone flat. I have a power supply with me as well, so it's never really been an issue. You've got the Boosted app, and currently my battery is on 89%. I'm going to do a picture-in-picture here. So I'm currently on 89%. I've got 6.3 miles range. If I go to the mode button, you've got your 22 miles an hour top speed for your Pro, Expert is your 20, Eco is 16, Beginner is 12. If you are new to these, recommend you go to Beginner first, Beginner first and then Eco, which would be the better choice. If you've got a helmet and you're safe, use the Expert or Pro mode. I'll cover the helmets a little bit later on. 378.1 miles, and my trip distance for most of this week has been 79.5. I'm now actually going to reset that because that's the amount of miles that I've clocked up. You can also record your rides with this new app, and you can also do your profile, so you could basically put in your gender, your height, etc., all of that. But again, I'm only interested in the main board itself. You can also use the app to check for any firmware updates for the remote and also the battery. But again, you can only change your mode when the board is stationary, so you cannot do it if you're actually on the go. So you have to come to a standstill and then go off to choose your mode, and then boom, you're done. Now, other differences between the V1 and the V2 was also the wheels. These wheels are slightly bigger than they were on the V1, but as I did say to you, all of this is all modular. I mean, this is the dual powered plus, so I'm capable of 22 miles an hour. Incidentally, on the board of the app, you have an option on mine which is obviously unknown. That's for the new variations booster boards that have come out, which is the Mini S, the Mini X, the Classic, and of course the Stealth. And I think for a few $100 more, a few £100, you can go up to 24 miles an hour. I'm normally happy between 16 and 20. I don't need to go flat out, again, because I'm using it for commuting, and I quite enjoy that, especially when it's nice hot weather. Talking of weather, booster board is waterproof to a certain degree. Do I use it in the rain? Yes, I do. Would I use it in the rain again? No, I wouldn't. Why? This is why. So of course you end up getting absolutely filthy, the board's filthy. I end up having to strip it all down, clean it all up because I don't want rust getting into it. So I do advise, although it is waterproof, I personally don't like the hassle of having to clean it all up. I do like having a clean board, but I don't see the point in getting it as dirty as what I did. How fast is it? Well, as I've said, I've covered that. I do 16 miles an hour. You can go up to 22 if you're in the pro mode. Now, talking of safety, a lot of controversy about electric boards and helmets, and there are certain people that don't necessarily wear helmets, and there are certainly a lot of people that do wear them. It becomes a personal choice thing, and you have to decide from your own safety point whether you wear one or not. If you don't, absolutely fine. If you do, fine, you're protecting yourself. Don't ram it down someone's throat that they have to wear it. Just like cycling, and if you're on a motorbike, it is strongly advised that you do wear one. Certainly motorbikes, for Christ's sake, but for cycling, you know, I'm actually looking at people now that don't have helmets, and there are people that do. So it's a personal choice thing, but from a safety point, the advice is always going to be, do wear a helmet. Also, another thing I forgot to talk about was forums and groups. There are tons of Facebook groups for Booster Board. So whether you're in New York City, Chicago, the UK, for example, there's loads of groups out there. So if you want to get into group meetings, definitely sign up with one of them. I'll put some links down in the description so you can actually potentially join up. I don't know how far this video will go. And most people that have a Booster Board, they've normally come from a community anyway. So again, personal choice thing. If you're happy to meet it up, and it is always a good thing to meet up, they do always say, again, advisory is to wear a helmet. So for your own peace of mind, it's probably worthwhile doing that. If you don't, entirely your call. I don't want to get into the debate about that. Did you just see that guy wearing a helmet? There you go. See it, wearing a helmet. Okay, so it is a bit of give and take. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go and try the board out. Now, I keep mentioning about the fact this has got 100% bamboo. Now, the flex is really, really good. Ideal when you're going over small little bumps. So it's definitely handy in my opinion. I think that's what makes the longboard pretty good. So anyway, facing forward, remote, and whoa! Now, for me personally, I end up using a lot of the cycle lanes and the cycle paths, or joint cycle lanes, cycle paths. The roads are fine, providing they've got genuine cycle lanes in there. If they don't, again, you're taking the risk, plus the road surfaces aren't always that great. For me, and for the route that I take, this seems to be absolutely fine. We're almost flat out now at 16 miles an hour. But it's a glorious day to be doing it, that's for sure. So 16 miles an hour and about 1.5 miles, which equates to about 2p, which isn't too bad. So considering how much it would cost me for fuel, it's definitely a saving. So I think I've done about 4.6 miles. Let's just have a quick look. So 33% battery still left, and 4.6 miles, an estimated range in eco of 2.4. So I'm quite happy with that. Give me enough miles to get home. I've got about a mile and a bit to get home. So should you go for a Booster Board? Yes. if you're going to be commuting out and about from A to B to C, I'll put links down on the latest boards that Boosted now sell. If you want to pick up a second-hand V2, absolutely no question, don't go for the V1. My opinion, I think it's great. If you love the video, please give it a thumbs up, that's always appreciated. Any comments below or questions, and I will answer them at the end of this video. And until next time, I'll see you very soon. Okay, a short disclaimer, I wasn't paid by Boosted to do any of this video whatsoever, and one of the key things I've got to mention was the regenerative braking. So if you're going downhill, by holding this trigger in and pulling back, when you're braking, you're actually getting more energy. One of the neat things of the booster board, and also conserve power and allow your distance to increase. So yeah, I forgot all about that, but it's on one of my daily trips, so now you know.